Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to my channel if you're new. I'm Meredith Lego, and I am doing a whole series of videos on Ascension science, the mechanics of how that happens, and it's really about the ascension and expansion of our consciousness. And in this particular video, I am going to be talking about getting to some topics about starseeds and kind of what we're doing right now as starseeds, and getting into various topics about kind of what's going on Earth at a very, very high level. I wasn't really sure, if I had to put a theme to this one, it would be hard because it's kind of all over the place, but yeah, it is what it is. So you'll see. So this information I channeled from a collective consciousness, and I kind of tune into that group from time to time, or more they tune into me. It's kind of a combination. So let me get into it here. What I tend to do, again, if you're new to this channel, is that I'll usually ask a question. So it's not like I'm in a trance channel. I'm basically very conscious what the information is in, but it's usually after meditation or so I'm a bit groggy in order to really receive a clear message. But I'm kind of in a position to be able to have a conversation should I choose to. So the information started with, there are 13 weeks waves of migration. So there are 13 weeks or waves of migration. The portals of time slow and show signs of fragility. Life forms are protected in the light of oneness. Seal this new intention of hope. And then I asked, why does migration occur? The true essence of life is freedom and evolution of consciousness. Starseeds are in the transmigration and transmutation process. Transmigration in the sense that you are shifting timelines, and transmutation in the sense that you are shifting energy frequencies. The two work together for soul evolution towards the best and highest path. Then they basically said, what you see is not what you get. And that was an interesting sentence, because it oddly enough didn't really necessarily have anything to do with the prior paragraph, and it definitely doesn't have anything to do with the next paragraph. but along the way, I've kind of been advised by really all the kind of guides or groups that I work with, is that you just have to be mindful of not always blindly trusting kind of the traditional senses that we're used to, like our sight and our what we see media telling us, or kind of what we're hearing. You got to really tune into your feelings and check your inner brain gut, if you will, because your gut does have a brain associated with it. So tune into your feelings, because they're going to be a higher source of truth than anything else. So then they go on to say, the circling of energy happens fast like a vortex. When the light shines down on the grand whole, Earth bears witness to the change at last. The sorrows of the past are released through emotional and ego surrender to truth, authenticity, and oneness. Fivefold. It's kind of a random word, but I guess that means magnified. Timelines bifurcate through the angular rotation and spin of atoms, charging to a new direction. Positive and negative reversals occur. So let's I was rereading this because I channeled this a long time ago, and I'm like, wow, how would I unpack this one? Because it's kind of all over the place, as opposed to the other videos that I've done, which, if you're following, hopefully you think there's somewhat of a theme to them. So this one, they kind of start by mentioning that, there's waves of there's a wave of migration that's going on right now. Now, like, I kind of asked, why does it occur? I didn't necessarily ask what migration are you, what is the migration, which, I'm looking back thinking, why didn't I even ask that? But, I'm half out of it half the time. So there's 13 waves of migration. The portals of time slow and show signs of fragility, and life forms are protected in the light of oneness. Seal this with new intention of hope. So I know at this particular time, I believe we were starting sort of like massive like sun flares that were starting to kick back up again. So, it actually was at the beginning of that point, and like every single week we were getting, like I was getting it because I was feeling every like bit of those sun flare energies that were coming through with the gamma rays. So that could have been what they were referencing here. But I did ask, well, why does it occur? And, they kind of didn't really answer the question, in my opinion, but maybe they did. I'm not connecting the dots on it. They said the true essence of life is freedom and evolution of consciousness. So maybe these particular waves of migration and light coming in perhaps is something that's going to help us essentially with the evolution of consciousness to continue helping our freedom as sovereign beings. But they did say that starseeds, which are really beings who have elected to come here and, have been sourced originally from other sort of dimensions or experiences, are basically in the process of transmigrating and transmutation. So, by doing that, we're kind of helping out the collective consciousness as a whole. But transmigration, they essentially says, is when you're doing that, you're sort of transmigrating timelines. But I personally think that occurs through the transmutation process, which you're transmutating or you're shifting energy frequencies. And this actually ties to the very last video that I did that talks through healing, where in every single choice, in every single kind of situation in your life, you have the choice of kind of how to think, act, and feel in those particular moments. So, when life is hunky-dory, normally it's not a hard choice. But when life gets really challenging and when you're in a situation of conflict or, being slammed up against a situation of fear, you have a choice in those moments on how to act, think, and feel. And you can immediately transmute those feelings or those energies into a higher frequency. So perhaps that through, the process of just information and awareness of all this coming in, as well as just higher frequencies, we're able to sort of shift and therefore transmigrate ourselves into a different timeline as individuals as well as collectively for all of the human race. But by doing that, those two things essentially work together for the soul evolution towards the best and highest path possible. And it's not just the soul evolution, it's like your experience as well, as a being in a human body on the planet Earth. So that essentially is what happens. Now, then they essentially started going into about how the circling of energy essentially happens fast like a vortex, and Earth will bear witness to a new change when light shines down on the grand whole. And usually light, basically, when there's light, it kind of reveals a lot of stuff. So it starts to unveil, if you will, darkness. So when light shines down, it enlightens, everybody with new information, and, Earth will bear witness to a change at last. And, obviously, I think we're seeing that playing out, certainly, all the time. And if you're keeping your eyes open to it, you'll have the ability of seeing it and spotting it when it's happening. Not only for you individually, because everybody gets enlightenment in their life as they kind of go through daily life, but obviously it plays out on a macro as well. So then what they essentially say is, again, the sorrows of the past are released through emotional and ego surrender, which is really key, because that's half the battle of also achieving emotional healing is also surrendering the ego, because the ego is usually what holds on to fear. And when you sort of let go of fear, in many ways, you're very liberated. And by doing so, then you can at least maneuver yourself more into truth, authenticity, and oneness. And that word authenticity really resonated with me in this particular channeling, because then you're at the point of being able to be who you truly are. Like, you don't have to hide behind maybe a personality construct that you think is going to cause you to be loved in life or accepted in life. You can truly be who you are and be in all of your glory. And then essentially the last thing is this timeline bifurcation. So I think maybe I've channeled it one, maybe two other times, but I'd have to go back and check. And if not, I've definitely heard about it from others who channel from other beings that, essentially we're in the process on Earth, or, in our kind of experience on Earth, our consciousness experience of going through potential timeline bifurcations. And in other words, you've got, you had a timeline and it's starting to play out where you've got, two different, there's like a fork in the road, and there's two different sort of timeline playing out. And as I understand it from another source, there's actually 3 timelines that can occur in a particular sort of harmonic universe that you're in. And I think this comes from Lisa Renee, and she works with a group called the Guardians. This also came from Ashiana Dean, who also works with that same group. But essentially, you have the ability of sort of choosing what particular timeline path that you want to go on, simply by shifting your consciousness and by how you want to think, feel, and act in the moment. And it very much ties to your frequency. So ultimately your experience in this reality, excuse me, in this sort of holographic construct reality, is very much gonna match the frequency state that you give off, and that again ties to your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions. So they're saying that this is, timeline bifurcations occur, but what's happening, but they're saying it, it's very much tied to the angular rotation and the spin of atoms changing to a new direction. So they, I think it's just referencing a little bit of how that's occurring. But what's interesting is they do talk to or reference the concept of the bifurcation or a bifurcation. So kind of a lot of random content in this one particular channeling. That's why I was like, I don't even know how to theme this, but I thought I'd share it. And maybe you're able to take away something from it, and if not, discard what doesn't resonate with you. So hope at a minimum that you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week until I see you next. And I love you, and I will see you in future videos. Thanks a lot. Bye.